Hi, it's Kevin again here. Looking at some of what we've already covered in the previous three videos, specifically looking at abstraction, I want to take a look at a more realistic example, move beyond the dogs, let's say, and actually look at something that might be more relevant to some of the labs that you're going to be working with. Let's take a look, a little exercise we'll call abstraction in action. We'll just kind of go through this together. You take a read through this, and it's typical of a description that you might see, I don't know, in a lab requirement, or that you might actually write based on an interview with a client who's looking to have an application developed that can handle payroll. So in terms of the payroll itself, this is typical of a narrative that you might look at. So, things like calculating the employee payroll and maintaining summary data. We pay overtime, and any hours over 40. There are some business rules around the range of pay for each employee and the range of hours worked. There are additional requirements in here for things like total number of employees processed, total of all payroll, and they also want to keep a track of overtime hours that they might pay for. So this is the point where, as always, you have to really ensure that you read something like this in its entirety and maybe get your highlighter or start thinking in terms of what out of this narrative is important. So I've gone ahead and maybe highlighted some of this stuff. So we're looking for something called employee payroll. So this would be the name of our class. We're going to actually instantiate payroll objects. We're going to maintain summary payroll data. And if you recall from 2 videos ago, we have that special type of attribute that's shared amongst all instances of a class. So if we're going to have summary data, then every one of those objects should have access to that shared summary data. For each employee, we're going to calculate their pay based on a number of hours and the hourly pay rate that's entered. And of course, we're going to calculate overtime pay on anything over 40 hours. Along with that summary payroll data in its entirety includes total number of employees, total payroll, and total overtime hours. And then there are some validation rules in here as well. But the things that I've highlighted here, all of this stuff actually becomes your list of properties or attributes, methods. Let's take a look at what I was able to glean. I've come up with this little chart for design for my payroll class. There are a list of properties here. We need individual employee hours, pay rate, and pay. And every single object that we instantiate from this payroll class is going to have its own hours, its own rate, and its own total pay. There are some shared properties that every object will have access to directly. The one copy of that shared variable or attribute, the number of employees, total number of employees, total payroll, total overtime hours. Methods, the only method that I really could find in the narrative is one to calculate pay. There may be other sort of utility methods that we might design along the way. Because we're going to be creating objects based on this class, then we also know that we're going to need a method to actually help us create or at least new or instantiate objects from the class. And then, of course, there's the possibility of this class or objects of this class actually generating events of their own. And certainly I would say that the validation of the business rules has the opportunity of possibly generating some events that a presentation tier may have to deal with. So pay has to be validated within that acceptable range of 1025 to 42 and hours 1 to 60. That's a quick little exercise in abstraction. The next video, we're going to, again, take another review. We're going to this time go down the road of looking at scope, lifetime, and accessibility.